Welcome back to another Broken Banners Battle Report. This might unfortunately be the last time you hear from me for a short amount of time. I am trying to record and get ready as many battle reports as I can before I move. My wife and I just bought a house and I am very excited about all of that, but moving is going to be an absolute bitch and a half. So my future is uncertain so far as recording, playing, and everything song related, but I'm really excited to get this battle report done. This is from New Jersey versus Pennsylvania, though New Jersey actually didn't make an appearance this year. It's a relatively local event between New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Maryland and some of the other surrounding states where we get as many of the players as we can willing to drive on over to Pennsylvania, not too far out of Philadelphia, every year for a really laid-back event. It's not necessarily a traditional teams event. I know there's a lot of different ways to go about teams event, but essentially all we're really doing is everyone's getting lumped into Team 1 or Team 2, New Jersey or Pennsylvania, except for this last year, which was Maryland versus Pennsylvania, and whichever team has more tournament points at the end wins, and they get to take the other team's flag with them, and then the next year, the other team gets a chance to win it back. This game we have recorded is actually Maryland's team captain, Riley of the Crownlands, versus a recent addition that we've had to New Jersey versus Pennsylvania, but longtime watcher of the channel, Frank. Riley is playing Night's Watch, and wow, they painted them so much better than mine. I mean, mine, I just didn't want to paint all black, so I went with a little White Crusader theme. I was watching Wheel of Time at the show. I was like, ooh, that's neat. Riley knocked it out of the park with the Vaporwave scheme. I think this is just so cool, and like, I don't want to play Night's Watch every time I see Riley plays Night's Watch, because I'm like, what's the point? The list itself is also, I think, pretty cool and unique. We've got Benjen Stark in Golden Company Crossbowmen. I have a few channels on our game of me playing Benjen Stark, and I think I play him in a more, I guess, traditional way, in the sense that he wants to go beat face and be super aggressive. Him and Bolton's Bastards Girls, I think, is a pretty common combo. But I have seen Benjen Stark in Golden Company Crossbowmen a few times as well, because giving that Ranger's affiliation is going to give you access to lying in wait, and free range attacks are pretty great. Sentinel's also going to help you make sure that you're in the proper position for everything you need to, and along with the Night's Watch kit generally, and the cards that Benjen is bringing, they're a really high mobility, high damage, long range threat, and who doesn't love those? Following up, we have the nastiest unit you never want to charge, Shadow Tower Spearmen, with Watch Captain and Dauntless Satin. There's really no point to bringing the other version of Satin, because Benjen cares a lot more about Rangers rather than himself, and Satin doesn't give the Ranger affiliation, but Dauntless is pretty great, especially on a Boldness and Courage Relentless unit that's going down 7/7/4 with Zephyr Charge. It's just... Don't charge it. Unless you're Castle Rock Honor Guard or something like that, you don't want to get tangoed up with these guys. We then have two Ranger units, Ranger Trackers and Ranger Vanguards. Ranger Trackers have Watch Marshal, the combination made in heaven, and Ranger Vanguards with a Fortune Seeker, the combination made in hell. You have to pay a point for it, considering the way attachments are only giving you that free point for the in-house factions, but honestly, it's worth it. Getting the rerolls off of Motivated by Coin and Healing, as well as Dauntless for more healing, and being able to attach that with the other kinds of healing that Night's Watch has available, these 4/5 cavalry become heavy cav real fast with the amount of healing that they're putting on out there that make them more durable, I would say, than Champions of the Stag, which are supposed to be the tanky cavalry. For NCUs, we have the classic NCU suite. Eamon, Malister, Donnell. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Frank is bringing a faction that I really wish we had more of on the channel, but I swear every time I'm trying to bring these guys somewhere, I leave them somewhere they're not supposed to be and don't get a chance to play them. Brotherhood without banners. We have Beric Dondarrion and Thornwatch, which I think is the right way to play it. I understand that Beric and Kingsmen is an absolutely disgusting combination, but part of the reason I don't like it is because it's really disgusting. And not just that, Beric and Thornwatch is a lot of fun. Getting that extra healing plus the Pathfinder is exactly what a skirmishy unit like Thornwatch wants, especially with Sentinel. Whether you're just using it for maneuvers so you can actually try and make use of their relatively lame ranged attack, or you're using it to get charges off for swift strike regroups and heals and all that kind of nonsense, you actually squeeze a lot of value out of these 6-point units, and it's just a ton of fun. Pretty combination that we see, though, with Beric Commander is Thoros of Myr and Edric Dane in a unit of Stormcrow Dervishes. They also are bringing that Swift Strike combination, with Edric Dane also bringing Regroup and Beric's Vassal, so they can also charge off of Assault Orders, and Thoros of Myr is giving you reinforcements from Relentless for also more healing, as well as just the absolute absurdity that is Relentless on a skirmishy Swift Strike unit. You hit them, they hit you back, and then they run away and are probably in a better position than you were to go ahead and slam you in the side or something like that. Even if they're activated, the threat of Assault Orders is too great to ignore. And with the rework to Motivated by Coin, these guys have actually gotten an increase in lethality that they've had over previous editions, gaining access to rerolls and just additional healing. Like, wow, there's a lot of healing between these two units. After that, we've got some pretty standard Brotherhood picks, Brotherhood Archers and Brotherhood Sworn Knights, because long range and cavalry are the dominant forces in this game. Maybe we're going to see that change with the next season, but we'll probably have an episode, maybe even a game, testing that kind of stuff out another time, so I won't dive into it. Finally, we have Lysine Cell Swords with Gendry the Bull in them. The resilience is really going to help these squishy guys survive a while and hopefully build up some pillage tokens and become the absolute menace that they want to be, throwing so many dice with Crypt Blow and just slapping away. And also, more healing. It's a pretty common theme with Brotherhood, so I think these guys kind of fit on in pretty well. For NCUs, we've only got two, Ghost of Highheart and Ravella Smallwood. Ravella Smallwood, I think, is probably one of my greatest proudful moments, in the sense that when Brotherhood was first spoiled, everyone was dogging on Ravella, talking about how she was useless, you were never going to take her, you were going to only take neutral NCUs, and, well, told you so. But I'll gloat another day. Round 1 is Dance with Dragons with player-chosen terrain, which is the norm for us in our locale. Riley's going first and is going to place down the stakes. Frank is going to follow up with a bog opposite that. Riley's going to put down a weirwood tree, and Frank is again going to counter that by placing a corpse pile to try and make the Night's Watch player drop some cards. Deployment, Frank wins, and is going to force Riley to deploy first, but we have the objectives. Up top, we have Sundering. In the middle, we have the vulnerable token going out when it's scored, and the bottom is weakened when you make a melee attack. Riley puts down trackers down the center, opposite the bog, not caring with their innate Pathfinder. Frank is going to put Sworn Knights opposite them. Riley is going to put Benjen right below the trackers, and Frank is going to put his archers opposing Ben. Riley's outflanking the Vanguard, and Beric is going to go on up top. Shadow Tower Spears are going bottom, needing the least support, and the Pirates and the Dervishes are going to pop on down on opposite sides of the center of the board. Round 1. Riley is second player and is choosing to outflank rather aggressively because there really aren't any great places and they don't want to wait until round 3. Frank puts the Realm's Remains onto Sworn Knights and is going to maneuver up his Pirates. Riley is going to have Benjen march on forward to get an eye over the battlefield while swords are still open. Frank is going to deny the swords by putting Ghost onto the swords, destroying the stakes and influencing the Dervishes. Riley is then going to put Dennis Malister onto the horses to maneuver up the Shadow Tower Spears so that they can go ahead and grab the objective round 1. Frank is going to have the Sworn Knights maneuver and march to get to the other side of the Pirates. And then Donald is going to take the crowns and zap the Pirates for a fortunate 3 wounds. Ravel is going to take the bags and completely undo the effect of that zone. On Riley's turn, Deceitful Reposition is going to reposition the archers very deceitfully before Aemon takes the letters and weakens the bows. Frank is going to maneuver his Stormcrow Dervishes, and Riley is going to activate the trackers, attaching shields of the Realms of Men to maneuver march them and move them straight on down the center and towards that objective. The Shields of the Realms Remain is probably going to be the most impactful card you're going to see played this game, and keep an eye on that one. Frank is going to maneuver his bows, and then Riley is going to march the Shadow Tower Spearmen, just touching the edge of the objective so that they can grab it and hold it, and hopefully nothing will ever touch them. Frank is going to only slightly maneuver up the Thornwatch, afraid of the unactivated Vanguard, who are going to attach the Watcher on the wall and maneuver and march towards where the rest of the battle is probably going to take place. Though at the beginning of that turn, mark target is going to vulnerable the Pirates. They forgot about that until the end of the turn, which I do all the time. Round 2, Dennis is going to take the crowns, influencing the vanguard, and zap the pirates for another 2 wounds. Bad day to be pirates. Ravella is again loving the pirates and Johnny Depp, healing them up with the bags. Riley is going to mark target, vulnerable to pirates again, and Donald is going to take the horses, maneuvering this time the trackers on up to apply more threat and grab the objective. Frank takes his golden opportunity, putting Ghost onto the swords to have the archers shoot the rangers for 2 wounds. Sentinel is going to trigger, and the Golden Company crossbowmen are going to maneuver on up. And this is a mistake that I see that is made very often, myself included, is we forget that Sentinel is an order occurring on your opponent's turn. And I'm sure all you guys listening are like, well, yeah, obviously, but let's be real, who hasn't forgotten that it was just an order and not their activation? Which unfortunately is exactly what happens here, because Frank is then going to immediately take his next turn. The archers are going to activate, looking for a second shot now that they are no longer weakened, but Riley is going to play lying in wait, and Benjen is going to sock those guys in the face for a total of 6 wounds. They're going to shoot back at Benjen, and they're only going to deal 2 wounds, even without the weaken token. Really bad day to be of the Brotherhood. It gets even worse for Frank, as Riley's going to play Hunter's Insights for rerolls even at long range and pop off another 5 wounds. Frank is going to pitch Forgotten Fellowship with Ravella to heal 2 wounds, and then regroup and reform to heal another 4 off of the Stormcrow Dervishes onto the bows for a total of a 6 wound heal. All of a sudden, a lot of those attacks don't look like they've done so much. Thornwatch are then going to march on up now that the scary vanguard are away. Riley is going to maneuver the trackers back because they have no reason getting shot anymore. They've done their job. Frank is going to use another Ravella heal, pitching one of his assault orders to heal up the archers a little bit more, and then he's going to have the Sworn Knights maneuver in charge, needing anything but a 1, naturally rolling a 1. Because it's really a fuck Frank kind of day, he's also going to take 2 wounds off the panic test. Riley's turn, Eamon is going to take the letters, weakening the bows again, and healing Benjen up with Eamon's effect. Frank's turn, the Stormcrow Dervishes are going to march on up. Riley's turn, Deceitful Reposition, again repositions the archers quite deceitfully, as the Shadow Tower Spears maneuver back 2 inches. Pirates are then going to march on up to try and get into the fight, and the Vanguard are going to go ahead and charge because they have absolutely no choice since you can't pivot through an enemy tray, and they go straight into the face of the 3-up Armor Sworn Knights. This is going to end poorly, but wait a second, it's Sword in the Darkness for a vulnerable token, and Dennis off the top rope with a panic token. Total of 8 wounds get done, 5 off the hits and 3 off the panic, because what's a 3-5 save compared to bad dice? To add insult to injury, Hit and Run's going to get played to dump a weaken token. Wow, that's a lot of tokens, and off they go. Beric is going to go ahead and Sentinel on up to grab the objective and position himself at the flank of the Vanguard. That's it for the round. Riley's going to score up 2 points, tossing the vulnerable token off of the objective onto the Sworn Knights, and Frank is going to take his 1 hard-earned point to the bank. A lot happens at the start of round 3, so try your best to follow with me. Ravella is using her last token to heal up the cavalry unit 2 points and remove their vulnerable token. I don't know what card gets discarded, but I guess it's not that important. Stormcrow Dervishes are going to activate, and they're also going to heal 2, but it's off of reinforcements for 1 and motivated by coin for another. Benjen is going to go ahead and do another lying in wait to try and shoot them in the face, but oh wait, hold on a second, here's an Uno reverse card with Knights of Hollow Hill. Finally, Frank passes a morale test, and the effect is cancelled. The Stormcrow Dervishes are going to use that maneuver up a little bit more, just because, hey, even if we roll a 1, we're going to be slamming you in the face, and off they go, charging into Benjen and dealing a total of 5 wounds. Ouch. Riley is then going to mark target, vulnerable onto the Stormcrow Dervishes. Eamon is going to take the horses, healing Benjen up 2 and having Benjen retreat on out of there. Frank is going to take his next turn. At the start of it, Adaptive Planning is going to turn a vulnerable token into a weakened token, and then Ghost is going to take the swords. The archers are going to shoot the trackers for a total of 0 wounds after shields in the realms of men. Nice. Good job, shields. Ghost is going to influence the pirates. Riley is going to take Dennis Mallister, influencing the Vanguard and healing Benjen up another 3 wounds, and ooh, look at that, the attack never happened. There's a lot of healing this game. Frank is then going to go ahead and put Ravella onto the crowns, using the other assault orders to have the Thornwatch charge on into the flank of the Vanguard. And 1 is not enough to get you in, and because why not, Thornwatch are going to take a wound. 6-up morale is clearly too low. Benjen is going to activate and shoot the Stormcrow Dervishes for 3 wounds. Frank is then going to have Beric charge with his activation into the flank of the Vanguard. Vanguard are going to use one of the 2 Donald tokens to get +1 armor, and it is going to pay off big time because they are only going to take 1 wound and then just dauntless it right back because, wow, welcome to the tankiest faction in the game, I guess. Riley is then going to have Donald take the letters and weaken the bows again because never leave the long-range unit unweakened. Frank is going to have the Sworn Knights maneuver and charge on into the trackers, finally, not a 1, and going to deal 3 wounds. That's enough to take off a rank and going to heal 2 off onto the Stormcrow Dervishes because, hey, this is exactly what this game needs, more healing. The trackers are then going to retreat. Rangers are then going to activate, attaching now his watch is ended for, you guessed it, more healing, and shoot the Sworn Knights for a total of 2 wounds. Frank is going to have the Pirates charge. 12 hits get weakened down to 5, only a few wounds go through, 2 end up getting healed back, net total, 2 wounds done. Riley's turn, another deceitful reposition, and another now his watch is ended going on to the Vanguard because, hey, who doesn't want to heal 2 off of every panic test? He's then going to go ahead and slap on into the Thorn Watch, dealing a total of 6 wounds, but the Thorn Watch are going to pass their panic test and heal 2. Take the Black is then going to heal 2 on over to the Vanguard. So it's just, I think you're sensing a theme here. Frank is then going to activate the archers and shoot the trackers, who are going to use their second Donald token because there's a lot of hits, but ooh, lucky roll, block everything after the shields and heal 1. So nice hit, thanks for the heal. Final activation, Shadow Tower Spears are going to maneuver forward because they're realizing, wait, hold on a second, we're scary, we should be fighting people, not hiding. That's going to be the round. Riley's going to score another 2, putting another vulnerable token onto the Sworn Knights, and Frank is going to score 1. With that, we move on to round 4, which is actually going to be the final round before this game ends to time. One of the things that I think most of you guys do appreciate, and I think it's why you guys watch us, and I greatly appreciate that, is we cut down a lot of the dead time. This game actually went, I think, to about 2 hours and 15 minutes or something like that. We allow a lot of time at New Jersey versus Pennsylvania, and I managed to cut this down to the time that it is. So here we are, round 4. Riley starts. Dennis Mallister going on to the swords, influencing the Shadow Tower Spears, and the crossbows are going to shoot the Sworn Knights, dropping them down to a final wound. Frank is going to activate the Sworn Knights, take up the sword, finally passing a morale test with these guys, and they're going to heal up 2, taking them to a total of 3. They are then going to maneuver and charge the trackers again, trying to dislodge that objective token off of them, and maybe even get them to drop off their cards with a lucky panic fail. And they're going to drop them down to 6 wounds, but they are just going to retreat again. Right after that, Riley is going to go ahead and mark target, and then have the Benjen's unit shoot the Sworn Knights. Frank is then going to activate Ghost onto the bags, influencing the Dervishes and healing the Sworn Knights up 3. Riley's turn, deceitful reposition. Eamon's going to take the letters, putting another vulnerable token out onto the Sworn Knights and healing the trackers up 2 to get them up to that next rank. Frank's turn, Stormcrow Dervishes are going to charge the Shadow Tower Spearmen. This is actually a pretty interesting idea because you would think that you would just want the set for charge to go on off. Why would you charge this unit? You get your charge attack and then the relentless track after that. And after that second attack, the Stormcrow Dervishes can just go ahead and scamper on off, or they could stick around for a fight. In this case, we don't really need that though. So Riley, I think, quite intelligently decides not to go for the set for charge and just hold back and see how things go. 1 wound's going to go on through, but that's all you need to get to the panic test, and sure enough, flub it, 2 more wounds, and most importantly, drop the objective. The Stormcrow Dervishes are going to take their plunder and retreat on off to the side, healing 2 along the way. Riley's turn. Shadow Tower Spearmen are going to maneuver with Donald on the horses to try and take that objective back. Frank is then going to activate his archers and shoot the trackers for a total of 1 wound after shields, and now his watch is ended, deduct some of that. Riley's turn, Shadow Tower Spearmen are going to charge, dumping off 4 wounds, which is just enough to drop the rank and claim the objective. Ghost gives them a vulnerable and a weakened token, but hey, it's their turn for a hit and run, and off they go before Relentless can take that objective back. Frank's turn, the Pirates are going to go ahead and slap the Vanguard for 4 wounds, but they're just going to heal 2 back for a total of 2. The heal tanking is pretty goddamn absurd. Riley's then going to have the trackers maneuver backwards because they have their point. That's all they want. Ravella takes the grounds for a Hail Mary panic zap, but no dice. The trackers maintain their objective and heal a wound for the trouble. Riley is then going to have the Vanguard activate, using Light that brings the Dawn for rerolls to take the objective off of Beric's unit by dropping him a sufficient amount of ranks. Beric is going to swing on back, but I don't bother putting that in there because it's not enough damage, and that's going to be the game. Overall, in summary, I think both players played pretty well. There was definitely a lot of thought-provoking dilemmas there, which I think often comes with Dance with Dragons because it's such an interesting game mode since the objectives can move around. And ultimately, I think it would be a lot closer if Frank could just pass some panic tests. Even though none of his units died, and he managed to heal up a lot of that damage he took, from the failed charges, there was a lot of wasted activations and an inability to apply the pressure that he was hoping to enforce some bad decisions out of Riley. Further, all the failed panic tests means that he just couldn't really hold on to objectives. Not that he had them to begin with, but even if he was able to get through some of that damage, just the way that he was rolling, he probably would have ended dropping them right back on over. Riley, on the other hand, managed to pass every single panic test except for the one, and even that one wasn't punished because by the end of the round, the Shadow Tower Spears were able to reclaim that point. And that's not to belittle Riley's victory. I think Riley played well. I like the list a lot. It's not necessarily the kind of Benjen list that I play, but it's also probably a lot more successful than the Benjen lists I play, so like, who am I to say anything? I think it was a good game from both of them, and it was really nice being able to talk with both of them after their game, pick their thoughts, and then watch them roll on into the second game, and I think they ended up steamrolling both of their opponents afterwards with the fueled rage that they had after the first game. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. As always, I greatly appreciate it. Preseason is coming up. We are really hoping that we are going to be able to carve out some time during or after the holidays to record a Bolton vs. Stark game with the preseason rules. I think Adam might come on out with an episode later that's mostly a discussion talking about the stuff that we're seeing in the preseason. It's a mixed bag. On one hand, I kind of hate how with the preseason changes, every single week, everything is changing. We've seen like 4 different iterations of Berserkers already, 4 different iterations of like the tactics board. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but it's really not that far off. We are seeing a lot of change in what's going on. There's a lot of uncertainty, but this is all essentially just public play test. So, that kind of comes with the territory. I was really critical of the first set of changes, but I think after a few rounds of feedback, I really think Chanel is cooking with this stuff. Like, I love what the new tactics board is looking like. I'm actually really happy that we're looking at toning down long range and cavalry. Come at me. I think there's a lot going on here, and I'm really excited to get some reports on out with the preseason rules, and I'm really hoping we see some of the preseason rules for other factions roll on out before the season exactly hits. Anywho, that's further down the line. Until then, and in case you guys don't hear from me, happy holidays. Always a pleasure, and I hope you guys tune into the next one.